warm welcome to our Desh Videsh viewers in today's program. Domestic violence has always been on the radar, but with the new COVID-19 crisis, domestic abuse rises worldwide, and it has led to an increase in domestic violence in BC. Movement restrictions aimed to stop the spread of the coronavirus may be making violence in homes more frequent, more severe, and more dangerous. As quarantines take effect around the world, that kind of intimate terrorism, a term many experts prefer for domestic violence, is flourishing. In addition to physical violence, which is not present in every abusive relationship, common tools of abuse include isolation from friends, family, and employment, constant surveillance, strict, detailed, ruled for behaviors, and restrictions on access. The isolation has also shattered support networks, making it far more difficult for victims to get help or escape. 1 in 10 women say that they are very or extremely concerned about the possibility of the violence in their home. There is a 20 to 30% increase in rates of gender-based violence and domestic violence in some regions of the country. Calls to Vancouver Domestic Violence Crisis Line spike by 300%. According to the Canadian Women's Foundation, a woman in Canada is killed by her intimate partner every 6 days. Despite this data, shelter workers say the numbers don't paint the full picture of how big this problem is, because the majority of domestic violence victims and survivors do not call the police. Domestic violence is not just about physical abuse. It includes form of violence within any relationship, whether it's sexual, emotional, financial, and psychological, including threats. Examples of abusive behavior include threats, physical violence, insulting or degrading comments, defaming someone, destroying property, or extreme jealousy. Domestic violence is a serious issue and it is a crime. Domestic violence may include more than physical or sexual violence. It can include other forms of abuse in attempt to control someone. Physical abuse that causes physical injury, leaving marks or cause of pain. Emotional abuse happens when yelling and anger goes too far. Emotional abuse can hurt and cause damage just as physical abuse does. Sexual abuse is any type of sexual contact if one person overpowers another, regardless of age. Harassment can take the form of repetitive and unwanted texting. Respect, honesty, and trust are essential parts of a healthy relationship. Feeling hurt or upset at times is normal, but relationships should never make you feel scared, humiliated, or controlled. Well, as we discuss further about domestic violence in today's show, it's time for a song, so we will be right back.
आंसू के संग ना बहूंगी सखी, अब ना मैं गुमसुम रहूंगी सखी, सहने से बेहतर कहूंगी सखी। तन के घाव पे मरहम हया का, मन का घाव है प्यासा दवा का। तन के घाव पे मरहम हया का, मन का घाव है प्यासा दवा का। सितम के अंधेरों में सदियों है बिलखी, मासूम भोली वो प्यारी खुशी। घुट घुट के कब तक जीऊंगी सखी, गुमसुम मैं अब ना रहूंगी सखी, सहने से बेहतर कहूँगी सखी, आंसू के संग ना बहूंगी सखी, अब ना मैं गुमसुम रहूंगी सखी। वार ये प्यार का कैसा सिला है, सह जो गए बारंबार मिला है। वार ये प्यार का कैसा सिला है, सह जो गए बारंबार मिला है। जुल्मी नकाबों के पीछे छुपा है, कायर सा चेहरा दिल से दुखी। जुल्म नाब मैं सहूंगी सखी, गुमसुम मैं अब ना रहूंगी सखी। सहने से बेहतर कहूँगी सखी, आंसू के संग ना बहूंगी सखी, अब ना मैं गुमसुम रहूंगी सखी।
Welcome back. Let's look a little deeper into domestic violence. Domestic violence is now commonly defined broadly to include all acts of physical, sexual, verbal, mental abuse, psychological, or economic violence that may be committed by the family member or intimate partner. According to the CDC, 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men will experience physical violence by their intimate partner at some point during their lifetimes. About 1 in 3 women and nearly 1 in 6 men experience some form of sexual violence during their lifetimes. Physical, verbal, or sexual abuse at any time, at any age, or in any relationship is not okay. Domestic violence is abuse that happens in a personal relationship. Domestic violence affects men and women of any ethnicity, race, religion, gay or straight, rich or poor, teen, adult, or elderly. But most of its victims are women. About 2/3 or 68 out of 100 domestic violence victims in Canada are women. The abuser may use fear, bullying, and threats to gain power and control over the other person. He or she may act jealous, controlling, or possessive. The abuser may begin making threats, calling the other person names, and slamming doors or breaking things. This is a form of emotional abuse that is sometimes used to make the person feel bad or weak. Mental verbal abuse can also be very bad for one's mental health. Physical abuse that starts with a slap might lead to kicking, shoving, and choking over time. Domestic violence also includes sexual abuse, such as forcing a person to have sex against her will. Abuse is also common in teens who are dating. It often happens through controlling behaviors and jealousy. Domestic violence has so many layers to uncover and understand. We shall carry on the conversation after this song.
सकते नहीं सर कटा सकते हैं लेकिन सर झुका सकते नहीं अपनी आजादी को हम हरगिज मिटा सकते नहीं हमने सदियों में ये आजादी की नेमत पाई है सैकड़ों कुर्बानियां देकर ये दौलत पाई है मुस्कुरा कर खाई है सीनों पे अपने गोलियां कितने वीरानों से गुजरे हैं तो जन्नत पाई है खाक में हम अपने सत को मिला सकते नहीं सर कटा सकते हैं लेकिन सर झुका सकते नहीं अपनी आजादी को हम हरगिज मिटा सकते नहीं अपनी आजादी को हम हरगिज मिटा सकते नहीं
Welcome back. What should you do if you're being abused? It's important to get help. Talk with someone you trust, such as a friend, a help center, or even your doctor. Talking with someone can help you make the changes you need. You should also know your legal rights. Consider asking the police for help. Teach your children not to get in the middle of a fight. If you are a teen, talk to a trusted adult, such as your parents, family friend, or school counselor. What should you do if you know someone who's being abused? Be a good listener and a caring friend. Remind the person that no one deserves to be treated this way. Keep in mind that the person may not want to be ready to leave. He or she probably knows the abuser best and knows what options are safest. But it is important for victims of abuse to know where they can get help. Why do victims stay in an abusive relationship? People who are not abused might find it hard to understand why anyone would want to stay in a violent relationship. Some people think if a person stays in an abusive relationship, she or he must be weak or needy. Well, that's not true. There's more to this issue than simply leaving or staying. A woman may fear that the abuser will hurt her or take her children away. She may stay for religious or cultural reasons. Also, she may still love her abuser and hope that things will get better one day. The abuser may threaten self-harm or suicide. Men who are being abused may have similar feelings. What are some of the harmful effects of domestic violence? Domestic violence hurts victims as well as their families. Do not ignore it. People who suffer from abuse can be badly hurt, and abuse has a big effect on children. Children who live in a home where abuse happens see violence as a normal way of life. It also raises their chance of being in a violent relationship as adults, either as abuser or as a victim. Teens are at greater risk of depression, drugs and alcohol use, and unsafe behavior. Get the help before it's too late. Go talk to someone. Leaving you with these thoughts, it's time for a song. We will be back shortly. Welcome back. We're almost at the end of today's episode. Let's look into South Asian community and domestic violence within our community. Why are South Asian women more vulnerable to domestic violence? South Asian women in particular are not only vulnerable to domestic violence, but exceptionally vulnerable to underreporting the domestic violence. The problem compounds itself by making it difficult not only to quantify the issue, but also harder to understand its roots. South Asian culture tends to be very traditional. South Asian culture is starkly different when compared to that of Western society, which is in no small part due to the importance of collectivism rather than individualism. The importance of the group in many cases, the family takes priority over individual happiness. There's a high value in both family and public perception. Therefore, the importance of keeping family consistency and avoiding disputes is extremely relevant to victims of domestic violence. However, it is also extremely important to preserve the image of the happy, healthy, successful family. The appearance of domestic violence would be incomplete contradictions to these factors, and so reporting it is heavily discouraged. These factors unfortunately combine to discourage reporting domestic violence, as it is not only upturns the delicate family dynamic, but can also damage community perception of the family. For South Asian women, we know that their particular experiences of domestic violence and abuse are greatly influenced and exacerbated by cultural dynamics, pressures and issues around honor of the family, pressure of our parents to be ashamed in the society, which not only impacts on their mental health, but also on the way they disclose and seek help. Culture includes patterns of behavior and customs, values and attitudes, implicit rules of conduct, patterns of social organization and taboos or sanctions, which also shared across people with a common identity. While culture can enable self-respect and social status and provide support, protection, and security, it also has the power to harm. Asian women experiencing domestic violence are often doubly victimized, first by the abuser and then by their community. The accomplishments of an Asian family are judged in terms of the family as a whole, so privacy or independence is seen as undesirable. Gender stereotypes are highly conventional, and since women are held responsible for maintaining family's honor, known as izzat, and avoiding sharam, shame, the family may justify women being guarded and considered not as an individual but as a property. An obligation to maintain izzat can keep Asian women trapped in violent relationships. Women who stay at home and obey fathers, husbands, and elders usually gain more respect than women who assert their independence. Asian women have to cope with conflicting roles and living two lives to maintain their cultural identity but survive in the dominant society. For Asian women, the decision is especially hard. The stigma of being divorced or separated has very grave consequences, as the woman's respectability, status, and honor is dependent on her marital status. Notions of honor and shame play an important role in containing and policing many Asian women. Marriage reputation, respectability, and status. Women are considered the upholders and honors of the family, and it is their behavior which becomes the mark of family's honor. All of this does not make it okay to be a victim of a domestic violence. Would you like to see your son or daughter go through this? Pick up the phone and reach out for help. You deserve a better life. This brings us to the end of today's show. Once again, Put an end to domestic violence in your home and in your life today. We will see you again next week. Until then, stay happy and stay blessed.
चिड़ैया नन्ही सी चिड़िया अंगना में फिर आ जा रे गोरी चिड़ैया नन्ही सी चिड़िया अंगना में फिर आ जा रे अंधियारा है घना और लहू से सना किरणों के तिनके अंबर से चुनके अंगना में फिर आ जा रे हमने तुझ पे हजारों सितम है किए हमने तुझ पे जहां भर के जुल्म किए हमने सोचा नहीं तू जो उड़ जाएगी ये ज़मीं तेरे बिन सूनी रह जाएगी किसके दम पे सजेगा मेरा अंगना गोरी चिड़ैया मेरी चिड़ैया अंगना में फिर आ जा रे तेरे पंखों में सारे सितारे जड़ूं तेरी चूनर धनक सतरंगी बुनूं तेरे काजल में मैं काली रहना भरूं तेरी मेहंदी में मैं कच्ची धूप मलूं तेरे नैनों सजा दूं
When it comes to fashion and variety, there's only one name: Quality Garments. A choice of Desi fashion shopping for every family member and every woman's first choice. At Quality, you can find vast variety of loose fabric, ready-made suits, lehengas, sarees, kids wear, men wear, bridal wear, sherwanis, and much more. For visiting back home, we have many gift items including jackets, tracksuits, and much more. One-stop shopping for all your needs. Don't forget, one and only Quality Garments.